Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Sword Art Online Alternative Gale Online Season 2 review. This one's going to be for episode 5 and 6, so continuing this, reviewing it sort of 2 by 2, and I think it continues to work out pretty well, because once again, we have a situation where I think episode 5 is very much the setup for the way the kind of finale of this squad jam is going to work, and then episode 6 was the start of the action surrounding the ending of the squad jam. So I think it would have been perhaps a little bit frustrating reviewing episode 5 just on its own. Not to say it's bad or anything like that, but very clearly the action only starts right at the end, and it mostly is just explaining, okay, here is some of the stuff we alluded to at the end of the last episode by introducing the special rule. Here's how the special rule is actually being implemented. So, of course, for context, what's happening here is one member of all of the remaining teams has been taken and formed into a new kind of betrayer team. We find out the identity of all of these characters for all of the teams, and it's a pretty kind of stacked lineup that the Betrayer team has. We get basically the leader of the gymnastics club, so we get kind of like the boss. We get the leader of Memento Mori, Pito Hui, and then it does seem to be the leader of the kind of other team, the one that gets killed off entirely here. They get one of the machine gunners, and it's one of the team that won last time. So it's a kind of mix of like 3 main characters and 3 sort of people kind of just thing. But it does leave like some of those teams without their like main characters, so it sort of feels like, is the rest of Team Memento Mori going to do anything when their main character is with the Betrayer team? Not really. They didn't really go into too much depth about, like, okay, it seems like they're setting up that some sort of secret about why this rule was implemented is going to come out in the next episode. And I suppose this more surrounds the idea of, okay, what is the intent of this? It's a very cool switch up, and it's interesting. But of course, it affects like all of the teams, and that like, if the Betrayer team wins, it is going to feel like it's sort of like rigged on behalf of the Betrayer team. If one of the other team wins, it's obviously quite impressive that they were able to overcome the odds of like one of their team members being taken away from them by the rules. But what's the overall idea here, and how does that affect like the competitive aspect of what's going on here? That's kind of interesting to think about just by itself. But what we see here is basically we montage through the kind of floating platform arriving to pick up the Betrayer member of each team. They arrive, and we find out that the center of the island, the mysterious kind of spot on the map, is actually a kind of beached cruise ship. And this is going to be the location for the kind of end of the game. All the other teams seem to kind of like move up and be positioned around a little bit of a kind of impact crater almost type thing leading into the ship. And so the idea is the Betrayer team is given the best position here. Can the other teams get in and onto the ship to actually, you know, take out the Betrayer team or not? Because again, the water is still rising, coming up over the edge, and is about to kind of fill this crater. And as we find out more towards the second episode, it's actually going to float the ship, and the ship, even though it has holes in it, is going to be able to keep moving for at least a while. And we set up a bit of a time scale for the ending in terms of how much time do we actually have left. It's about 2 hours, because Pito Hui makes the decision to not to deactivate the ship's like defenses against the kind of flooding. She wants the ship to go down, but also makes the decision to agree with the armored member of the team to point the ship at their location to kind of bring them back into play. Because the whole time throughout, especially the second episode, episode 6, I was like, we haven't cut back to the rest of that team that won the last squad jam. Are they still just stuck up on the top of that skyscraper on the side of the map? And that is actually the case. So clearly Pito Hui has some sort of a plan in relation to this, which I think is quite interesting. My guess is that everyone else assumes that, like, oh, she's just chaotic and she wants to bring all the players into play. It's a bit weird, but that's what's happening here. My guess is that she's probably actually going to ram the ship into the building, and this will cause quite a bit of destruction and kind of change the landscape of the end of the game. It probably will kill the other armored characters, and I guess the fall will probably take out some of the other people on board as well, probably setting us up for who the final kind of characters are for the end game. Which we assume is going to be like Len, Pito Hui, the boss, and who knows what other characters we're going to really involve in this. But we do get the meeting up of the Betrayer team where they properly kind of form their team. Pito Hui actually takes command. She is the leader of the Betrayer team, and she has everyone kind of introduce themselves of like, okay, what skills, what abilities, what guns do we have here? And they have a pretty nice lineup of like someone for every single situation. From a plot perspective, we mainly seem to set up the idea that Eva, of course the boss, is not super cooperative, just assumes everyone knows what she's up to. One of the players is actively planning to betray the Betrayer team, whereas a lot of the other teams just seem to accept that, hey, these are the rules, let's not be unfair and try and morph the game to our advantage here. We will fight you, you fight us, and this is just the way it's ended up, and we'll see who comes out on top. So that's kind of an interesting one. Will there be more going on with Pito Hui, or are we just building to another Len Pito Hui fight? I'm not really sure. My guess is she's probably going to do something that at least opens the door to Len being able to win this, if that's maybe the direction they're actually heading in. But there are some clever tactics that come into play. Right at the end of episode 5, we get the big sort of gimmick that is a major part of the start of the episode 6, which is the only ways to get onto the ship, because everyone else was deposited from the air, from the ground, is that there's holes in the side of the ship where it kind of meets the ground, basically. And you can maybe run in there. You're obviously going to be, if the Betrayer team chooses to use the high ground, it's going to be really tough to get in there without being shot at. But they immediately get around the idea of people even potentially coming in by Pito Hui making the decision to cut the lifeboats off the side of the ship so that they fall and block these entrances. Now, of course, they do this using photon swords. So Pito Hui, and then of course we get the reveal that the Memento Mori leader, as a response to him being killed by a photon sword in the last game, has got one himself. So the two of them are the ones taking down the lifeboats. Fun that his one was revealed to be blue, which I thought was nice. But that's the setup there. Once the action properly gets going, it is sort of just a sense that, like, okay, we just got to charge, because the water's coming in. Everyone realizes they've waited a little bit too long, allowing the Betrayer team to come up with like fancy tactics, and just everyone sort of has to make a run for it. It's at this point we get a few things happening. I think one of the teams where the Betrayer team Betrayer, his team gets killed before he's able to do anything, and then he quickly gets taken out. They also covered that the Machine Gunners team, their guy gets taken out. I think the Machine Gunners actually get their guy, which is funny. But then they make the decision that, hey, we're probably not going to make it over to the ship, or we don't want to do lots of tactics, basically trying to infiltrate a ship. So we're just going to have fun out here and basically kill each other. And so they end up taking each other out. And I think we are left with then the remaining teams of like the armored team is well off to the side, but we are heading in that direction. We've got the remains of Memento Mori, but were they killed off entirely, or was it just one of them? I forget the exact details of that. In terms of how many characters are left, because we have a few of the Betrayer team members are still left. We have Len's team, we have the rest of the kind of gymnastics club girls are still left, and then I think there's one or two, maybe 3 Memento Mori members left. I might be misremembering that, 4 or something. And I think that's the setup we have right towards the end of the episode, which is that after a lot of kind of back and forth and what happens, everyone eventually makes their way inside. M nearly gets caught behind because he's very much playing the range. They do some clever stuff with Fuka firing one of her kind of plasma grenades, and they use the kind of shockwave to kind of propel M forward so he actually makes it on board. But once we get inside the ship, they basically reveal that, okay, because this is a very kind of complicated environment, the way that it works in here is that it changes from an overall sort of a map view of the entire kind of map to just being a kind of 3D view of the ship. And the ship will be scanned every like 5 minutes and reveal where everyone is. So that's obviously to keep the close quarters action quite good. And I think it's a very cool environment for action to take place. In that, like, right at the end, we see some fights in the kind of like corridors around a lot of the rooms and stuff like that. Right as the scan hits, we get the reveal that, oh, Len's team is basically a corridor away from the rest of the gymnastics club. And so straight away there is a shootout. Fuka gets hit and she drops both of her grenade launchers. But when she picks one up kind of randomly and fires it down the corridor, she meant to do her more normal grenade launcher, but she fired the plasma grenade launcher again. And I don't think they go back to it, but it seems like she takes out everyone except one of the gymnastics club members, because she hit the wall. It seemed to blow out the wall, and they were like right next to it, and I don't see how they possibly could have survived, but we'll see if there is anyone else. The cliffhanger for episode 6 is that the member of the gymnastics club with the white hair attacks M wanting revenge, and she manages to get like M in a chokehold using the kind of strap on her rifle. And obviously Len and Fuka are not really able to do anything. It's a little bit of an awkward situation where it feels like she's putting all of her strength and effort into trying to choke him out. There is enough space for like you to just, move forward and shoot her. Like, you're not locked into a position where like if you move, she'll do something more. She's already doing everything that she can. So there's a bit of a like, Len, are you just frozen up here, or is something going to happen? But I think it's a nice enough setup, even though it's a little bit kind of awkward what they're wanting you to kind of believe is the situation. My guess is that because the cliffhanger was not that M is taken out, M will end up surviving this. It's just about like what exactly is going to happen here, because the plot of this one is I don't think it's really about the rest of the gymnastics club. It's about Len and the boss fighting mainly, where they are still in play, and we just need to see kind of like how that kind of plays out. I'm not sure what they're going to do surrounding any sort of a reveal about like why this rule was implemented. They did say, like, I think in one of the earlier episodes, like this was something like it was the idea of like one of the sponsors or something like that. They covered the idea of like someone suggested this, and everyone was kind of surprised that the organizers of the event like agreed that this was a good idea for like a squad jam type thing. So I'm guessing we're maybe going to lean into just the idea of like the influence of this person and what their kind of actual motivations are. It's probably going to be slightly odd, is my guess, just because that has been the approach of this show, has been that the characters IRL are a little odd in this show, and so I'm just waiting to see what the situation is here. Is he trying to mess with a specific player? Is it Len? Not really sure, but that's just my guess right now. So again, 2 good episodes. You can see the strength of this show and perhaps some of the limitations of this show with kind of what they're doing here. But I like that that's what it is. It's a battle royale type dynamic, just with some characters, some storytelling going on, and that's really cool. And I love that we're getting this kind of fight on this cruise ship and that there's a lot of moving parts. and I'm excited to see how it plays out, because we've still got, I guess, a good few episodes left in the season, and so I think I'm probably expecting another squad jam to take place. So are we going to wrap it up next episode? Is that enough time? Maybe one more and then go into a maybe smaller scale squad jam or something like that. I'm not really sure what the overall structure of the season is going to be. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on GGO Season 2, Episode 5 and 6. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.